Hey, what's up guys, Shahazad here and welcome to what's on my iPad Pro. Let's start with the device itself. I am using the 10.5-inch iPad Pro running iOS 12.4. The reason why I haven't played around with the iOS 13 betas is because I do a lot of my work on this device and I just don't want any crashes or instability. Now let's jump in. This beautiful wallpaper comes from Unsplash. It is my go-to app for wallpapers and also to see some new concepts and fresh ideas. Moving on to the dock, which holds some of my most used apps like Safari, Gmail, Apple Music, YouTube and Documents, which is a must-have app in my opinion. It has its own browser, download manager, and you can access all of your files and documents from here. You can even zip and unzip files from here. There's a lot to like about this app. It's free, go check it out. Next to it is Apple's Files app. You can call it a very toned down version of Documents, but there are some things that this app does that Documents cannot, so that is why I have these two apps side by side. Next to that are two apps which I have been using from a very long time. Google Keep is a simple and straightforward note-taking app which I use every day to jot down ideas, scripts, checklists, etc. Snapseed is one incredible photo editing app and Google is just making it better and better with every update. It makes my workflow fast with its simple and super effective tools. For example, things like auto straightening, portrait to add face spotlight and to clear skin, tonal contrast to properly bring out details in shadows and highlights. And aside from that, I still haven't found an app which does perspective correction as good as Snapseed. If I sit down and try doing all of these things manually, it would take me hours. But Snapseed just makes everything faster. And I think that's what Google is all about these days. Their softwares and algorithms are getting too good. Moving on, LumaFusion is another superb app. This one for video editing. In fact, the video that you are watching right now was also edited on LumaFusion. I have made a dedicated video on this app, but it has come a long way since then. I would give this app a solid 10 out of 10. Moving on to the main home screen, aside from some stock apps, I have a folder called Create, and RAW Plus is the first app in it. It's a manual camera app, but most importantly, it lets you take raw DNGs from your iPhone or iPad. I have never shot RAW on this iPad before, and honestly, I am blown away now after using this. Every RAW picture is about 12 MB with plenty of highlight and shadow data to play around with. Now to play around with all of that data, I use Adobe Lightroom. I have compared some other RAW photo editors with Lightroom in my previous video, and what I have found out is Lightroom gives me the cleanest highlight and shadow recovery without any artifacts or degradation of the image. On the other hand, recovered highlights in apps like Vesco and Snapseed looks pasty without any actual detail, but not in Lightroom. Aside from that, there's lots of other tools like camera profiles, lens correction, noise removal, etc. Next app is Vesco. Well, I don't use this app as much as I used to before, even though I am a Vesco X member, mainly because I think its filters are being overly used on Instagram. And that's why I have adopted my own coloring method with Lightroom and Snapseed. For all the people who are asking me about my Instagram stories and how I make it, this is the app that I use. It's called Mojo. It has lots of free and paid story templates, and I do have a separate video on it for more details. Over is also an app which I've been using from a very long time. It's not a photo editor but more of a designing app. You can find templates not only for stories but for flyers and banners, posters, business cards, logos, etc. Really handy app. Canva is a very similar app to Over but provides more free templates and more categories of designs to choose from. Even if you don't want to use the templates, it's good to have these apps for inspiration and to see the latest design trends. Lens distortion is again like Vesco Cam for me now. It's being so overly used that I've just stopped using it. Anyway, it doesn't take away from the fact that it is a beautiful app. And as the name implies, it lets you overlay different lens characteristics like lens flare, light leaks, prism effects, etc. PixArt I only use for its clone stamp tool, but it really has a lot of other things to offer. Moving on to the next folder, first app I have here is 1Password. It's a nice app for generating and saving your account passwords, which you can only access with your Touch ID. CleanFox allows you to unsubscribe from unnecessary newsletters with a single click, and as you can see by my unread mail counts, I really need this app. Metaphor is a must-have app for iOS users. While the stock photos app doesn't show any metadata or heck even file size, Metaphor allows you to see all the details of the image. From file size to camera model, lens used, focal length, ISO, aperture, pixel density, everything. ShareIt is a cross-platform sharing app. Then I have a currency converter app, a third-party calculator app. For some strange reason, Apple doesn't have a calculator app on iPad Pro. Like seriously, Apple, you have AR measuring tools, but not a simple calculator. Anyway, iExpand is the companion app for iExpand Drive. This little thing is super handy. It lets me quickly copy and paste files between PC and iPad. Pages and Numbers are alternative to Word and Excel for Android. Moving on to the Camera Connect folder, both of these apps does the same functions. That is the wireless live feed from the camera and image transfer. One is for Fujifilm and the other one is for Canon cameras. And I have to say, Canon Camera Connect app works flawless with little to no latency for live feed. So now we reach to the last folder, which is all about games. So enjoy the gameplay for a bit. So guys, that's pretty much a wraps up for my what's on my iPad Pro video. Let me know what are some of the apps which you use on a daily basis in the comment section down below. That's pretty much it for this video, and I'll catch you all in the next one.